Well, welcome Professor David Lewis. Thank you for coming into the studio to talk about gagging clauses in reference to the health service but also in other industries. Just tell me, what is the current situation? There's been a lot in the news about gagging clauses in the NHS. What is the situation for employees?
The current position is the government now acknowledges that gagging clauses have been abused, knowingly or unwittingly, and insist, and I think this should apply outside the health sector as well, that the confidentiality clause says you are prevented from speaking out about the following matters, save where you are protected by the legislation. So making it clear that individuals can speak out. The legislation says they can speak out, but people don't know that a gagging clause is overridden in that respect. So there's, in my opinion, no great confusion about the law, but there's some confusion about what is best practice, certainly in the field, and there's a suspicion of deliberate malpractice as well.
So how would you advise both management and employees to wade their way through this situation? Because it's very complicated. Is it a question of being much more open in communication? Is this the root problem, that if we're open in communication, we don't have to resort to the law in the first place anyway?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing about whistleblowing is about openness. Being able to go to your line manager and say, I've got a concern. I don't need anonymity. I don't feel confidentiality. Whistleblowing is about creating a culture of openness. The law's there as a backstop. In an ideal society, we wouldn't have this legislation. I'll give an example of another country, Norway, with a different system where the industrial relations are on the basis that you talk to your line manager, you raise problems, you've got concerns, you don't expect to be victimised, and if you are, you've got a strong trade union. But there's a culture of openness. So whistleblowing is not such a big deal. Indeed, if there's a problem with whistleblowing in Norway, it's something terrible has gone wrong because the line managers who would normally deal with this thing haven't dealt with. The trade unions would normally be involved. So openness is exactly the key, and the openness will apply, of course, to the gagging clause, where the employer should be making it clear, saying, look, we are prepared to pay you this money, we don't want to go to a tribunal, that's not in your interest as well, we won't incur costs, we'll save costs, you can have the money. The clause will safeguard our interests, but will not prevent you making a protected disclosure, which, by the way, we don't think you need to make, but we're not stopping you exercising your legal rights. We can't do it anyway. So openness in terms of a culture of reporting, and then if things go wrong, openness about the terms of any settlement.
But would you advise a structure for HR departments to create this dialogue and this communication? Because it seems to have been missing, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There is a code of practice on whistleblowing. It's a very good code of practice. It's a British standard. And I think there's a lot of ignorance about it. It makes a lot of sense to me. Drafted by Public Concern at Work, who are leading experts in the field. It talks about how you introduce a whistleblowing policy and procedure. It's got to come from the top. It's about culture. It's about having arrangements. It's about explaining to people what you're trying to do and why, how they can report concerns in the interests of the business. So whistleblowing, the fact that people blow the whistle, whistleblowing is a symptom of something going wrong, not just the wrongdoing, but it's a symptom of an organisation where people are not comfortable in just saying, look, I think there's a problem here. I don't know, I have a concern. It's not a complaint, it's not a grievance, I have a concern. In the same way as the kind of, I'm afraid I'm too old for this, and the old style suggestion schemes, people got rewarded. We can improve this, we can make the organisation more efficient. Well, today, everybody's interested in efficiency, we're also interested in good governance. Whistleblowing fits in with good governance, and whistleblowing very much is a question of culture, and that culture is the one you've identified, one of openness.